My name is Brendon. I'm still an alcoholic. Great to see everybody. I want to thank Chris for asking me to be here. Hopefully he will not feel like he made a bad choice after a few more minutes are over. My sobriety date is January 22nd, 2007. Got sober basically over in Burbank through meetings out that way, but just overall, my deal was I didn't get sober until I was almost 50 years old. I had decades of consumption of something every day, starting really in college in the mid-70s. Excuse me, at the very beginning of 1975, I discovered the joys of combustible substances and decided that smoking was a great thing. And so I mostly didn't spend a sober, any day, rarely did a day pass between January of 1975 and January of 2007. I do recall the times that I didn't do anything on a day, whether it was drink or smoke pot or do something else. I would be really sick. Perhaps I remember I had a bad flu once when my daughter was born in around 1990. And so that was our older daughter. But it was what I did. A local product here. Went to Catholic schools, was raised Catholic, went to St. Francis up in La Cañada, some of you may know it. It was a great place to start drinking because there's no girls there, so if you're gonna go to a dance or something, you gotta have drinks. That was part of very important stuff. College, I'm fortunate enough to have managed to sort of be a functioning user of substances for some number of years, I guess. I got through law school, started a career, and then when I discovered that I had money, and I thought that then I had to prove that adage about, well, I don't know, it's attributed to Robin Williams or somebody else that, cocaine is God's way of telling you that you have too much money. So I decided to start spending money on that. And then, of course, you don't really realize that you can then borrow money. Or the problem is that you can borrow money and some money you don't actually have on that, which is another brilliant maneuver. So went through overall got married, had kids, had my own law practice going for a number of years. But through most of that time, or through a good chunk of that time, and certainly, as I think it was John, whoever the birthday man I just mentioned there, X number of years, it was bad. And by the way, congratulations to the guys who took newcomerships, and certainly happy birthday. It was a great birthday share, by the way. A lot of key elements in there. My mom died. I was in business. Both my mom and dad are lawyers. I was in business with my mom, pretty close to her. She died in 92, and that sort of like Big Mama was no longer watching, so that meant I could start partying more somehow. And then my dad died in 2001, and then I was really off to the races. And so from 2001 to 2007, it was really bad. I was certainly approaching financial bankruptcy, physical and moral bankruptcy for sure. And I was desperate, is what I came down to, and I got really lucky. I was blessed to get in trouble as a lawyer. My higher power went to work through what's called the Office of Chief Trial Counsel of the State Bar of California, which sues you. It initiates legal proceedings against lawyers who aren't doing their job and who have pissed off their clients enough that the lumbering bureaucracy of the State Bar will come up and say, dude, what's going on? And even then, anyway, I won't go into detail about how long it took for that to get my attention. But safe to say that I'm not I like to think I'm a smart guy, but I'm a slow learner. I was getting letters from the IRS, the Franchise Tax Board, the State Bar, say nothing of regular creditors, and kind of ignoring them or saying things to them that weren't true, as it turned out. And so I got finally, in the latter part of 2006, there was these legal things going on. I had to go show up in a courtroom, and it's not really very fun for a lawyer who has to represent himself. There's that saying about a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client. But need more as a fool for a lawyer because, it was just stupid. But I wasn't sober. I didn't know what was going on. I'm not clear. So I go down there. I hear this thing called the Lawyer Assistance Program. And then if you do that, then maybe you can get in less trouble for what you've done as a lawyer. I'm like, okay, this sounds good. So I tell the judge one hearing, okay, I want to join the Lawyer Assistance Program. And so I go downstairs and start signing up for it. And then I go home and don't do anything at all about it. And it turns out you have to actually do stuff. It takes action, whether it's in our program or in my lawyer's recovery program. And so there's another hearing in 30, 60, whatever it was days. I go back and the judge goes, well, what's going on? I said, well, I signed up for this program to get sober as a lawyer. He goes, well, did you do anything? Did you talk to them? Did you take any action? Well, no. So anyway, so I had to go downstairs and do it again. And that became actually a matter of some humor to my fellow participants in this program over the years. Our group facilitator would just give me grief because I ended up doing it. And that's what helped me get sober. But he would just give me grief because I was going, well, you're the only guy who has 2 files. Like I couldn't even I'm so bad at procrastinating and everything else. I had to have more than 1 file, because I'm an alcoholic. I need more. So anyway, so I got all this trouble. I get in there and then it turns out that kind of like going to the Gooden Center and where you have to go to so many meetings a week, this program I joined said that I had to do a bunch of stuff. I had to basically do a bunch of papers and show why I should be accepted into a program for recovery. Establish there's a connection between my drug and alcohol use and my misconduct as a lawyer. I had to attend weekly support group meetings. I had to go to meetings. I had to be available and call in every day to possibly go down and give a random piss test. So I had all these great things to do, and it turned out to be the best possible thing for me in the world. I needed somebody to get my attention. It did it. It made me realize that there was something, in fact, that mattered to me more than drugs and alcohol. Coming from a family of lawyers, I probably just I took everything for granted. I took many of the blessings I have in my life for granted. And when that was put at risk, that actually got my attention. So my bottom really hinged upon the fact that I could have had my license practice law taken away, or at least taken away for a while. And I couldn't really afford to do that because I had enough cognizance and enough consciousness. And I was blessed with the grace of the higher power that got into me and said, dude, you better try to get your shit together. So kind of like a plane crashing, I was crashing, and then managed to stay above the treetops for a while, and then have been able to come back up and being required to go to meetings. I got just very lucky meeting, I think, tremendous men in this program, my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I met a guy who became my sponsor. He famously told me go to this first meeting. It's a book study. It was the meeting location closest to my house. It wasn't a book study, it was a step study. They're on the 12th step. And so I'm going to be one of the last people to share or something. And I was all excited. The reading was very powerful and it seemed great. And I said, oh yeah, my name's Brendon. I'm an alcoholic. I'm just starting recovery. I'm an Irish Catholic attorney. This just fits so much to me. Guy who's leading the group just says, shut the fuck up and listen. And that turned out to be the best thing possible for me. Because after the meeting, he also told me that if I did that and I followed the directions of the people in the program, the guidance, my life could be better than I could have ever imagined it to be. And that proved to be absolutely true. It was truly miraculous. I couldn't imagine, you guys are just coming in here, man, I couldn't imagine a day without doing something to alter my consciousness. This is decades worth of it. And I was able to stop. And higher power at work, the obsession was at some point lifted from me. I had all these incentives. If I complied with this lawyer's recovery program, I ended up getting in essentially minimal actual sanctions or problems for my misconduct as a lawyer. So I had a lot of incentives. But my higher power just made it possible for me. I met great individuals, great human beings, that were clearly living a life in a much better way than I could have imagined living. I had all the material things and a loving family and the ability to support myself and my family, but I was using none of them to their full capacity. And what this program did for me was to enable me to see where I was going astray, sort of through the inventory process. It allowed me to recognize the part I played in it. It allowed me to take action to change the things that were not helpful about me. More to the point, it allowed me to allow access to a higher power and to allow grace to do those things. And then have the ability to live a better life. And it's staggering to me now how I lived my life before versus how I am able to live it now. One of those adages, they say it both ways in different points in the big book, but we ceased fighting everyone and everything, and another point they say we ceased fighting anyone and anything. And that's a challenge. There's a lot of things that are challenges for all of us in life, but we have to. What being in the program does for me is it allows me to balance those the need to support oneself, to assert oneself appropriately, to make appropriate boundaries, with the need to not engage in every single thing that I'd like to engage in or that seems like it's so important to engage in. We have a friend at the meeting that Chris at, who got many years of sobriety, but he the other day in another meeting mentioned buoyancy, that we need the program gives him buoyancy. And I think it's a great concept. It's not one of the principles or the concepts here, but it really fits across a lot of them because, we have our ups and downs. Obviously, life is in session. This past year, clearly challenging for all of us the last number of years. A lot of things are different than I thought they were before, or a lot of my conceptions about the nature of reality and of people and of human beings have been changed. And I thought I was a pretty open-minded guy and that I thought I understood things, and I don't. And the more I recognize that I don't understand everything, I don't have to understand everything. It's that simple. And what I guess I would say is that I don't know if I'll make it the topic for tonight, but I know one of the topics that we can discuss here in this meeting is the we agnostics notion of in the chapter of the Big Book, and really that's the key to all of this. Is as it says at the beginning on 45, the Big Book is all about the object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And it goes on to say, basically, if we just don't fight this notion of higher power and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power. That's the deal. It's a spiritual program, but it's simple. It's just like, I'm not it. As our friend Chuck would say, the first three steps, right? I can't, he can, let him. And there's the deal. Let it. Let it. Let her. Let the spirit of the universe. So if the daily chemical imbalance isn't changed every day by putting something into your body, what I have found is that we have that ability to seek this alternate way of getting that which we sought through alcohol and drugs, which is spirit. It is a funny word to be used both for imbibed substances and alcohol called spirits, and yet we are aiming for a spirit, and we get that out of this. The other night, again, the other meeting with Chris, we read that story, the keys of the kingdom, that talks about that the joy that we have is in our groups, and the buoyancy, the love, the concern that we have, and the help we can give each other, and the help that we help ourselves by giving, the kind of loving giving that has no price. I had no idea. I thought I was a decent guy, concerned in theory for people who don't have what I had, etc. And I want to think I'm a if not altruistic, at least concerned person. But it turned out that alcohol, the selfish and self-centered condition that my alcoholism just let run rampant, led me to not caring for other people, like my family, you know, and not taking care of them, and not caring for my clients, not caring for those around me. And the last 14 years have just been truly miraculous in the sense that it's not perfect by any means. I still have defects. Am I close to my end here? I don't want to tie myself. But,
Don't look at me, Ben.
you know, the fact of it is that my life is so much better, and that allows me to be of service to my family, manage to stay in this house, which is the house I grew up in that I was on the verge of losing. And, okay, thank you. And so, you know, it's just, that's perfect. Even on Zoom in a gallery view, who could ignore a chicken, for God's sake? That's perfect. Anyway, so I really appreciate it, and thanks a lot for letting me share. And